February 12th Board of Trustees Budget Meeting to order. Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Other than the budget, we do have this one item, the lease agreement with the Baseball Hall of Fame. This has been signed by the village for kind of decades. And the old one actually had kind of expired. So we sent them what the old one was, and they looked this all over. They've updated it. As you can see, they've already had it's signed by the CEO of CFO of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. I know it went around via email, and Joe had a question about insurance coverage. So seeing that question, I reached out. He replied that in reviewing the attached agreement, the insurance provision looks in order.
Okay.
Does that kind of answer it for you?
Yes, it does. I just wanted to be sure we.
No, it's a good question. Because actually, we're looking at our trolley leases too, the red lot and the yellow lot. And that old lease had a much lower amount than actually we've been providing currently. So that one can get updated. And that would be, so they're done. So with that, motion to approve my signing the Village Hall of Fame lease, essentially for Fowler Way.
I'll move that.
Moved by Joe, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And moving on to budget. And I will just first come in, Christy, because she's had a baptism by fire here. First of all, I looked at our calendar, and last year, I think we held our first budget workshop at the end of February. So here we are towards the beginning of February, and we're holding our first workshop. There were some tweaks that had to be done. So you have one that was tweaked this afternoon and is fresh and hot off the presses. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of move through it. And
I'll have to donate a trade.
Yeah. So we'll begin. There's a very pretty graphic on page 1, which basically is a graphic of the figures that you'll see on page 2. And for those who picked up the budget that was waiting for you earlier in the week, and I think that was Cindy and me.
Oh.
That was because we're a little compulsive about these things. And we both said, well, there won't be much to do because it didn't look like something looked very good, but a little peculiar. So once we sat down and kind of worked through some numbers, we think we have a much clearer sense here. Just, for those kind of new to the budget process, that first column on page 2 is obviously total of all funds. The general fund is next. That's what we call the A fund. The water fund is the F fund. The sewer fund is the G. Trolley is an enterprise, and that's an E fund. The trust fund is basically what we call our trust and agency, and that's where maybe money has come in, been given to the village, free money or park bench money that hasn't been kind of moved out. You may have heard Cindy at one of the recent meetings talking about our green kind of funds where we were putting the nice CERTA funds that we hadn't spent yet.
But those funds, I'm sorry to interrupt, those funds have been accounted for, they're promised for something. It's not like
But they can be used for, there's like beautification, if there's a beautification we're doing, or if there's going to be a tree purchase, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're not necessarily committed to one thing.
But they're committed to a category.
They're committed to that category, and we can look at that more, but I was just sort of covering this, all these funds are in the packet. As trustees, we tend to really look at the A fund. Because that's our purview. Obviously, we have a water department that along with the DPW superintendent looks over the water, looks over the sewer. Trolley fund is an enterprise fund. It is kind of what it is. So it's the A fund we're really looking at.
Can I ask just a strategic question? Are these two, is this page one? What we're proposed to do, or is this a look back at 24-25? Because the title of this is 24-25, not.
Oh, I didn't update that, so I apologize.
Yeah,
Okay, I just want,
I didn't.
you're
even catch
looking
that.
at the proposed 25-26
okay,
budget.
I have another general question. Do we have any expectation of federal funds for anything?
That you'll find them in the budget.
Okay, but we do.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
you'll
you.
find them acknowledged. Okay, so what we frequently have to do is look at that second sort of bracket where it says other revenues. And you can see the general fund is 4,602,543. And, you know, for those who want to look, they can look up there. And then underneath it is the real estate taxes, which is also noted down at the lower left. We have sort of committed to never increasing our tax levy. It's been tweaked a little bit. It used to be 1,779,456 or something, but we just made it an even 1.8 million. It still works out to about the same tax rate per $1,000 of assessment, $5.20. So, you know, that kind of helps you with that calculation. So on, I had the figures on one of my earlier ones, which have now, I guess, gone by the wayside, but I was actually able to tell you what it was on a $400,000 house.
and I just have a policy question to pick up on a point you made, our pledge not to raise our tax levy. Is that prudent? Should we be doing this periodically so that we are keeping a pace with whatever?
We certainly
inflation.
could, but Joe, look at this budget. And what's the first thing that pops out?
You tell me what the first thing that popped out is.
Mhm.
What's the usage of our surplus funds?
Take it, we're not using.
Okay,
So if you look at that middle section, other revenues, 4,602,543. Real estate taxes, again, going back to that, that's the 1.8 that we levy in our tax levy. The next line is used surplus. And historically, that has been, let's say, very, very large. And we enter this first workshop and we try and get it down closer to
right.
about 500,000. At this point, now we've got to go through this, but, and as I say, things were moving and shifting today, but we're in very good shape and we would have no reason to continue to raise our tax levy, to answer your question, Joe. So we're looking at a total A fund budget of 6,402,543, which is significant, but a lot of that represents funds, you know, New York Forward funds, except other things that would be coming in. So, yes, thank you for pushing this toward me. So essentially, when we went from, I just wanted to say that 1,779,000 whatever tax levy to 1.8 even, it was a slight shift, about 2 cents. So essentially, on a $300,000 house, you paid $6 more in taxes. So we're being very conservative there, but it works well. All right. So the first page, page 3. Usually what we do is we go through here, sort of look for things that we could save money on, or, you know, lower our proposed. The proposed is kind of in that yellow column. And as I said, some of these changed today. So is there anything that pops out on the first page?
I'm having trouble following because I have an old version and all of these.
Wait, didn't she have a new one?
No, because her packet was gone, so.
I can give you-
We printed the additional pages, but didn't put them in our packet.
I left them on my desk, so I apologize. So let me-
Are they on your desk? Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, I thought you had them. They have the most recent now, right?
Yeah, the pages that were, I set this on your stuff.
Yeah, but I still don't have the summary sheet that shows no appropriated cash surplus.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay.
While we're waiting for that.
Which one don't you have? What page, Cindy?
I don't have a correct one of this, which is.
Page two.
Page two.
Everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you were wondering what I was even talking about.
I had never seen that.
This is the
You
one
have
that,
there.
as I say, I just saw it when I.
I guess that's right.
So sorry, go ahead, I just.
You see
Plain-
that, that's
plain.
what you have. Yeah, they have that.
Right,
It's
I
just
see
you.
I see the zero. What do we have our surplus anywhere accounted for here?
Not yet, because the estimated surplus, I sort of asked about that. And it is somewhat noted. If you went through your budget, you will see it's in there. Where is it? The last, but then nothing's really figured in there yet, if you look at page 31.
Okay, so
But it's kind of a estimated at this point, and you'll look and it says estimated on it.
Do some of your pages say 2021 and 2022 on the top?
Yeah, mine do.
That's just a title change that
No, I
goes
know,
in.
I'm trying to figure out which ones the good ones are and which ones the bad ones
But
are.
there, yeah, that is the good one.
okay, can I just ask the current year surplus and savings, those
They
cells should be
Everything
zero?
else, kind of just in case.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
Those should be zero.
This is where usually that number is maybe 1 million.
Oh, the use surplus, not
Yeah,
the surplus. and
Use
savings.
surplus.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, hopefully we realized it would be a little confusing. But the first budget use would have been really confusing to you, and we would have been like, oh, how are we going to manage that? So now, is everyone on page 3?
Yes.
Any questions, concerns about any of these? There was adjustments from the first draft that you were going to be shown tonight.
I'm sorry, the highlighted section, I'm gonna ask a lot of questions because I
No, no,
probably, this is first time for me, but
So you're looking at the yellow.
yeah, the highlighted sections, why are they highlighted? Because that's what you're,
That's what we're proposing for
okay.
the budget.
Okay.
That whole column where it says 2025-26 department request, that's the budget as proposed this evening.
Okay.
But obviously, all this can be changed as we work through it together.
Yeah, what I try to do is look for the discrepancies from prior years.
Prior
So-
years,
So if
yeah,
I'm looking down at the health fees. We adopted a $30,000 budget for that, and this year we're proposing 25.
Mhm.
I'm just curious as to
plus
why.
one that we were
We changed
increasing.
because, if you look over to the side next to us, we've only done $19,879 as of now.
Right.
So to put it up to 30 for revenue, the likelihood of us not
I
hitting
think
it.
that was one where we put it up to
We,
5.
no, it was at 5, we went down 5.
No. I wish I hadn't lost my earlier sheets.
I have it right here.
So
We went down.
It was,
no.
yeah, it should go,
Four and a half
it's meant to
months.
go out.
We have about 4.5 months left in the fiscal year.
I think we're on,
We're on track.
no, I had it, look here. 5.
Like the birth certificate, please.
Oh, okay.
This is what you showed me, and I said, make that 35,000,
Oh,
not
we're
the,
looking at the wrong one, that's a different section.
oh, okay, where's this one?
I don't think we looked at that. This one. I don't believe we changed that.
Okay, yeah, I would concur with you. I think that it should be 30, so that's plus 5,000.
Another one, I'm sorry, anybody else can chime in before, I'm down to the EV charging fee. Since one of our units is out,
It's working now. There goes the whole premise of that court argument.
all right. Very good. Move on.
I had a question, under intergovernmental charges concerning fire protection services, which is line 2262
Uh-huh,
000.
uh-huh.
So the Middlefield contribution is, I believe, significantly higher than. it has been in the past.
Absolutely higher, and it is because we expended. And that doesn't count the 2,120,000 for the aerial, it only counts the 500,000 that the village. Put in,
Are we assured that we're actually going to get that from Middlefield?
well, that's what they will be billed. I will point out, they were 22,000 this year, so it is a significant increase.
$100,000.
Yeah, yeah. But they also, let me see if I have those papers.
Now, why will it be such a big increase?
It's because the reason how we calculate those contracts is we take all the completed expenses for the fire department and EMS in our last fiscal year. So it would be the expenses for June 1st, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. Then the fire department and the EMS give their response data, and they break it down by townships. And almost 1/3 of our calls were to town of Middlefield this year. So they ended up with a high percentage of our budget, which happened to hit the year. We expended 500,000 on an aerial, and that was included. So our budget for 6/1/23 to 5/31/24 for our fire department, including our SEFQ insurance for the building, et cetera, was $651,131. They had 36 calls in the town of Middlefield. So they were 19% of our budget. If you want to think of it, the village then absorbed 65% for calls within the village and 12% of what are considered other or mutual aid. So we don't charge if it's mutual aid to town of Middlefield or town of Otsego. So we paid about 500,000. And they're coming in with another big chunk.
Yeah, I am just concerned
Oh,
about whether
absolutely.
they can actually, whether they will find another $100,000 in their budget.
They will be notified. They haven't put that budget together.
Right,
Remember,
right.
they're on a different fiscal year, right? So our budget, we adopted June 1 of last year. We have that in front of us. They were billed for the amount that's in here just a month or so ago. When they put their budget together, they will have this information in order to be able to do their budget when they begin in the fall. No, Cindy, it was even higher because initially 2,120,000 was in there.
Yeah,
And we took out
yeah.
only what the village paid, and we paid 500,000.
Hmm.
But it's also the fact that out of 184 calls, they had 19% of those calls.
9-0,
19,
1-9.
1-9.
yeah. Yeah. So they were almost, if you want to think of it, close to 20% of our fire department budget.
May I back up the tanks to culture and recreation? I was just on the Doubleday Field Cache A. We have, I see the
That got
adopted was
moved,
120, which is
switched when we
119. I guess
switched
that was
it.
not for.
How did it end up with something on both of them?
It's not for-
There shouldn't have been. This is always a little confusing here. Yeah, that's 75.
Yeah, that's the one I was.
Yeah, it
missing.
shouldn't be there. So the reason there's 2002-000 and 2002-003. You'll see they say Doubleday Field Cache A, Doubleday Field Cache B.
Right.
The reason for that is we take funds in this fiscal year, which ends again May 31st. So we have those funds in hand. If those games in July, August, September are canceled or rained out, we refund the money. So the funds are kind of held in separately,
Right.
but it should have just been 119 and one and not the 75. Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
that's.
So,
that's my
yeah.
question. Okay.
An earlier one had no amounts there, so it just was a little confusing. All right, good.
So
catch.
that 75 should be 0.
Yes,
In the cash fee line?
yes.
Okay.
So on that page, there was 5,000 added to revenue, 75,000 taken out of revenue. Moving on to page 4.
I have 2 comments.
Uh-huh.
On the line that is rental of real property, 241000.
Uh-huh.
It says Art Association new lease agreement. I was under the impression that Art Association was working under its previous lease.
It went, every year it goes up according
Okay,
to the
all right,
lease, so
so
this
it's
is
not-
what the new lease will
That's the new
be,
amount.
on the new budget.
There's no amount, not.
Yeah, there's no, oh, is it the 19?
19, yeah.
Oh,
It
okay.
is, it's said,
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
it's just-
19,
Well, it's
it's the new lease,
Yep, and
Okay.
should the.
and then
li-
next year will go up again, because the way they have it.
Should the library lease also be reflected there?
I asked Deb that, and she told me that she doesn't put that on there because there's that. It says she
Well,
knows.
I think you're right, Cindy.
because we're not collecting.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
We are, it's a journal ledger.
It should be collected in the coming year. I believe.
No, I thought, we'll
She does
double
a- She
check
does a
that.
journal entry because they do some. Stuff behind the scenes.
Right,
So
no,
my-
I thought we were through that money
I
in next year.
don't believe so, but we will look into that. Because remember, they did additional work.
Right,
And I think the way that and previously we were kind of just writing off their lease, and then there was a new GASB rule, which did not permit us to do it. So in our last 2 budget cycles, we've done a journal entry to,
all right, well, we can
Account
check
for it.
that, because I thought we were nearing the end of that arrangement.
yeah.
My other question is about zoning permits, which is 259200. We have instituted new zoning fees. And so we're sort of just carrying that 4,000 across year after year after year, but I think we should recognize the fact that we've instituted new fees and increase it to some extent. It is difficult for me to say to what extent.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we're not having to dive into any surplus. I would leave this, because as you say, we just instituted it.
Yep.
If in particular, the one that would be the biggest, of course, would be any development.
Right, which we don't know when that will.
Yeah. So I think rather than put in a figure that we're uncertain of at this point,
We could watch it.
we could just watch it. Yeah.
I think it's worth pausing on the interest, basically the NICLAS incomes, you know, the first several lines on that page. You can see from the olden days, the modest income we had from that. Now with our NICLAS, if I'm reading this correctly, we are anticipating much greater revenues from that, so it's worth noting that as a.
No.
as an
You know, the
outcome.
interest has dropped a teeny bit as it has everywhere, but you can look at the difference between 2021-22, 75,986 to, you know, in 23-24 when we were really taking advantage of the NICLAS, 261,959 to just really get a sense of how astute that was to move our funds, make them one of our financial institutions as well.
And can I return just below that back to the Art Association? So I'm trying to reconcile these lines. We won't have a new lease agreement. We're operating under the existing lease and there's an escalator in the lease that's taking effect. Then we have just both. So the lease payment collected line, that's supposed to be, that should show the 19,200 or
No, it's
which is up
under,
above.
it's under rental of real property.
Yeah, look at the classified line, the comptroller line, 2410, and you're looking at 2421.
Okay,
So our art association, is that what you're asking? Is real property, and so it has to be listed under 2410.
right. And the Art Association lease is there and the library lease isn't there. And then this 2421 lease payments collected is empty.
That category exists, I'm not
Because they're
sure.
all in the line above.
That line is no longer technically
Yeah,
being used, but we can't delete it out of our system. So that's why it's got a 0.
Okay,
all right, anything, so no real changes on page 4.
well, a question, not changes. I'm looking at licenses and permits and so we're, strike that. No, never mind, I got that.
Good. Okay. So done with page 4, looking at page 5.
Under other general government state aid,
Mhm.
which is 3089. In addition to the projects that are listed there, there's also that signage thing under New York Forward. I don't know whether we want to include that and then put the costs on the other side as well or not.
Yeah, that sheet I gave you, that listed all the New York Forward. I didn't know how that breaks
Oh,
down,
I love
because
it.
is it solely us or isn't the county getting some of that for their signs?
It all goes to us, although some of the signs will be on their property.
Oh, so they're not doing any. So like if there's an interpretive sign of the thing, it will come to us and we'll
we'll-
cover it.
we'll do
Okay,
all
then we'll increase that by that.
Where are we, I'm sorry, where are we talking about?
Right here.
No, I know. but
So we're
the
now we're
sign-
in that
no, the
bright.
signs that you're talking about.
Oh,
In front of the courthouse, the county office building,
Oh.
and then the other. The sheriff's building, whatever the other
Okay.
building there is referred to as.
this pertains to New York Forward approved projects. So the ones you see there, Pioneer Alley, Hoffman Lane, Grove Street, Fowler Way. There's an additional one which is signage, but since we did it jointly with Otsego County, I wasn't sure who was getting the funds per se. I guess it all would come to us
Yeah.
and then we would distribute. So we were also awarded that one too, so it needs to be noted there.
So this is anticipated or these are, the grants are official now for this 2,773,000?
We don't have a contract in hand, that's why we haven't proceeded with these. But we're in the hopes that in our 25-26 budget year, that contract will be in hand and we could begin these projects. So we need to show, this is confirmed what New York State will award us. So the contract will specify these amounts. Anything else on page 5? If not, then this is where we can sort of pull it all together. At that lower line, you can see subtotal revenues other than real property. This is the way that we're asked to sort of do it. That's that 4,602,543 line. Our taxes, 1,800,000 to give the grand total. It didn't get added in, did it? Oh, it did,
It's
6,402,643, which goes back to that one page.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I couldn't, mine's kind of purple, and the purple is hard, isn't it? It's very funny.
I'll make sure they're all blue or black, so that it's not
Yeah,
blurry.
all right. So now we have just finished what our revenues can be. Let's look at appropriations. This is the money we will expend. So we're looking now at
That
page
number,
6.
I apologize. That number that we just looked at, 6,403, is it going to be adjusted by the numbers we changed?
No, it will, we just said the only places we've sort of changed are page 3, we're adding 5,000, we're taking 75,000 off. We are going to be adding Grove Street, which was like 60 something, yeah, into 3089. So it will change.
Okay.
But
that's
I'm
what
just
it
trying to
said.
show you why, where that number correlates
Before
to
the
that.
changes.
Before those page 2. So now we're looking at page 6.
Personal services for assessment has been more than half.
This one is a result of a change which we'll probably be approving in May for our June 1st year. But our assessor, because his job is now not full-time, it's part-time, he has requested a reduction in hours. And so that will be formally approved, but we're budgeting accordingly.
Are we? I just want to go back up page a little bit. After, do we want to have a line item or a sub item for Welcome Home Cooperstown, or is this $600 item meant to capture paying costs for expending that other expense line?
I think
Where is that?
basically, if, you know, you already have, are you talking about when we do refreshments?
Yeah, whatever, however we quantify our commitment to that.
Well, we have, before, we used Board of Trustees and Mayor funds for that,
Right.
so that's where it was.
Right, and I'm just wondering if that's adequate for our needs. The other thing is that, you know, we had that request for funds that came through to the Rotary Club, which was declined for the brochure packing. We're not gonna be looking at those kinds of expenses.
No, this
Even
is
though this is
more
our
the,
program.
our handling refreshments,
Okay, that's okay.
which would be in. Yeah. Anything else on page 6?
Well, I just thought we could put an Audi in there for our treasurer. I see it's an audit.
I like it.
I do think she needs that vehicle though, Joe. That's so audit, sorry, no audit this year.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it is audit, but I'm
I know.
Joking, we read it.
But
as
Joe,
one.
Joe read it wrong.
Oh, I was
He
gonna say, I.
Yeah,
Joe's the
I know.
Dallas Catoma, he read it wrong.
All right, turning the page to page 7.
Down at the bottom. Public Works Administration Equipment.
Where are we? Oh, I see, okay. Yep.
1490-200.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'll catch it up on the screen in just a minute. So the line reads, I believe, 2,500, and that doesn't add the Ford Maverick.
That'd be coming from the police department budget.
They're purchasing it.
Okay,
They wanna buy my current truck. So that would be my replacement.
So when you go to the police department, you're gonna see it.
It'll be in theirs.
all right,
it's
so
kind of
should
like a
it,
wash
should
and
it
set.
not be noted on this line? Because the numbers don't add up if it's noted on this line.
Or put it in parentheses. We often do
Or,
that,
yeah,
Cindy, to
somebody
show where
Put
the
money
money's
from
coming
PD
from.
Next to it.
That
Yeah,
would be great.
yeah, just put it in a parentheses is what she's
Okay.
asking.
Yeah, no, you have it there. You have money from PD. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
What that-
Anything else on page 7? Page 8. We are, please note about little over halfway down the page, 1620-480 buildings. We're looking at some major front porch repairs and a generator for the building, etc. And so you can see that we've more than doubled our 22 main budget line.
May I make a comment on that? I question the wisdom of buying a generator. I think the event of a power loss of that nature is exceedingly rare, and this is a huge expense to go to. Or God knows, when we'll ever use it.
Well,
So-
we would have used it. I mean, we would have used it in the past year.
And
We
thank,
lost electricity.
and thank God, and thank God if we never use it, but it needs to be there in case we need it.
Well,
But
I'm saying, what is the benefit and the cost of having it? How much did we lose this year with our loss of it in terms of productivity and so on and so forth? I think it's a big expense for a very rare. event.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've frequently put it in, frequently taken it out. Going back to, I remember when Jim Dean sat here and he was adamant we needed a generator, and he's been off the board for 7 years now or whatever.
long?
Yeah.
5 years, whatever. But I concur that I
Yeah.
think we do need it because our public safety is here. If our police can't function, then I think we've got an issue. And our other buildings,
I recognize that, but everything is here, our whole government is here.
That's right.
And I'm just.
yeah, and it would, yeah.
When,
And in
I'm
a
just
terrible
looking at-
crisis, we probably have people hanging around here. If we're the only building with energy. I don't see how you cannot do it and seriously be considered a municipality without having had backup. I mean, the same thing, how often do we need a high school that can withstand a hurricane here? But we have to build it that way.
I will say, Joe, that we have found a way, Mitch has found a way really to basically half the cost that
Yeah.
we were looking at in the past.
Yeah.
So this is a much more economical way of doing this than some previous proposals for a generator.
What's the lifespan of a generator? Like, how many years do they last? I'm just kind of curious.
Depends if you
I know
have it
this,
maintained.
the one that I spec there are options for warranty, and one of them is a 10-year warranty. So they do last.
Yeah,
But it also depends on how they're maintained and whether they get routine maintenance.
Yes, and I have all our generators maintained yearly.
How many do we have for the board?
4?
And are some of those little guys from the street school or?
Oh, we have some of those, yeah, portable ones, yeah, but the
Yeah.
street garage has a standby
A
generator.
portable wouldn't be really sufficient
Right.
here at all.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that it would be, I'm just trying to see.
Yeah.
what it's driving.
All right, any other questions, comments on page 8? Moving on to page 9.
I'm sorry, just one, going down under special items. The $150,000 item. Can that be explained? That's what about a $50,000 discrepancy from what we adopted last year.
I was told the interest rate or the rates of insurance and stuff are going up. So we tried to accommodate those figures of, we don't know exactly how much the insurances are going up, but we know they're going up. So when Deb was here, we discussed it and she recommended it being that because of the fact of insurances are going up.
And this is insurance for our fire.
For everything,
Including our new burial letter.
yeah,
Okay, this, I see it under fire department. Am I reading that?
It's,
oh, you, on page
I'm
8,
looking under special items, page 8, A191047.
it's not under fire department.
no, it's above fire truck, so
Oh,
it's,
above
unallocated
fire
insurance,
truck.
that's Unallocated insurance.
yes,
So
that's all,
for all,
all of it.
That's our general liability, I have all our insurance.
okay.
Okay, moving on to page 9.
All right, so I'm almost afraid to bring it up, but I will. Cameras. Every year we have this camera discussion. It's in the budget, it's out of the budget. It appears to be out of the budget to start this year. Do we want it to be in the budget?
I don't.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
But I also know that the police chief feels very strongly about it, and so.
to have him.
And that's the ones that our legislation stipulated on the flagpole, etc.
I mean, it was listed in your report last month, I think, that he was going to put them in the budget. And they do not appear to be in the budget.
But I certainly endorse it wholeheartedly. All we have to do is look at New Orleans, you know, what happened down there recently. The possibility exists. During the course of induction weekend, we have a lot of police presence. Here in the village, as they fly the drones. But outside of that window, we still have thousands of people here in the village and not much in terms of surveillance equipment, if you will. So I would certainly.
I understand that, but the New Orleans tragedy, the cameras did nothing to prevent that tragedy. I mean, I think we're armoring up for things that we will not meet the objective we seem to want them for. So, and the logistics, even though we had suggested where these things might go, the line of sight, the hookup, the logistics costs were through the roof.
Recollect, I don't offhand what the cameras were going to be roughly.
The number 50,000 sticks in.
That was what stuck in my mind, 50,000.
Yeah, it started out as 13%.
Yeah, no, and it
And then,
did.
and then as we looked and eyeballed and looked at the.
For how
Yeah.
many cameras?
Four,
Well, it was at
5, wasn't it?
It was at the Main and Chestnut intersection, the Main and Pioneer intersection, and the Main and Fair intersection, as well as at Lakefront Park.
so.
I thought, and wasn't Fish Road thrown in there at one point, the boats? Yeah, so I think there were a total of 5.
Well, it turns out to be more cameras than that, but those locations. yes.
Locations, yeah.
Mm.
And you know, the other thing we have to remember, it doesn't necessarily have to be a terrorist attack, could be a lost child, you know, which may in fact be an abduction. Okay, and right now, we don't have much in terms of investigative tools, should an incident like that occur.
And Joe's comment, no, they don't prevent. Let's face it, they don't prevent, but they mitigate what happens afterwards. You know, we can find out who did it, to prevent them from doing it again. We can find out who took the kid. We can find out who drove the car through the community. I mean, all these things are important. If you said, you know, you have to go get the bad guys.
But there aren't that many bad guys that we don't
But
otherwise account for. This is what's so puzzling to me, that we would make such a huge investment for something.
Well,
that's
then
not
your argument, Joe,
endemic in our
what is it? Your argument gets a little bit, what's the word, ad absurdum? Because then you say, well, nothing is common anywhere. It's all rare, then nobody needs surveillance. And that's not true.
I would submit that in a budget year where we're looking at 0 surplus, I would like to put at least 50 in there, and I would like an updated quote from the police department for our budget, for our next budget
I just
meeting.
texted Frank, he said they should be in,
What?
they should be in here.
It's already in here?
No, he said they should be, but,
Oh, he didn't put it in, yes.
no, he did, but it's not in here, he said.
I will review his notes, but I know I added everything he gave me. So I.
Yeah,
will
if you
review
add
it.
what he's got there, I mean, that would, I think it would jump this over quite a bit. You add what's in there already.
I mean, I think in developing our budget, you're gonna have a public hearing, and I think it.
Needs to list it,
I think it should be open to public discussion,
whether to have those.
whether to include them in the budget, yeah.
So we won't, our tentative budget that we approve to hold a public hearing will not include them.
No, I think it should include them. and
Yes,
if people are
yes.
Opposed to it, they should say.
Speak
that
up.
they should come
Okay,
And it's a one-time investment, but there's maintenance, I'm sure.
every,
absolute,
and continuing communication costs and monitoring.
and
costs.
an operator.
so that's why an updated estimate, thank you, George, would be good. So we'll have, that would be at the public hearing, there'll be further discussion on it, but at least so we can see the budget figures within our budget.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to be in the position of opposing an entire budget, so I'll just record my opposition to that.
Yeah.
Right now, but if
Yeah.
need be, it has to come up later, I'll bring it for you.
All right. Anything else on page 9?
With the police, I've been asked by Frank to at least float the idea of hiring an additional full-time officer. Handful of reasons for that. One, the part-time officer who is just kind of wrapping up his training seems to be a very good fit for the village.
This is what I can say, because I talked to him the other day. He's getting all numbers and he is looking to have a full-time 4th person on. So that is in the negotiation of budget. He hasn't technically given us anything, but he is talking about possibly having a 4th one.
Just, you know, just some of the factors there, to be very, very brief, is in 2024, we had 132 shifts that were not covered because of personnel shortages. And there was a total of 1,156 hours. We did look to break down, we got some information on what the costs would run first year's 46,000 to 48,000, depending on the health benefit package. And then by year 5, it bubbles up to 66 or 68,000. And I have those numbers, I can drop you that sheet just so we can,
Okay,
you know.
yeah, he didn't leave me anything, he just
Okay.
came in and asked,
So George,
Kathy some information.
is that the top line item under, that would go under personal services,
That's correct,
Which line?
the very top one.
3121?
This one?
Yep, I'm in.
Okay. And I was just curious about the police materials and supplies from 10 to 15. It's 31/20/410 is last year, what was here, 10,000. And now it's 15.
Hmm.
And the same thing with the vehicle maintenance. Because there are a lot of repairs and.
Right now, we don't seem to be able to get anything repaired. We've had, a couple of farms down for quite some time.
And the traffic.
So then what do we do? What's the explanation for the $5,000 increases?
Just anticipating
Yeah.
costs with the costs, with the costs bumping the way they have been.
So-
That's right.
So you're saying like ammunition will go up by 50%?
Everything from eggs to
Everything,
ammunition, these things.
And what's the traffic control equipment? We had 0 budgeted this past year, this current year, and now it's 20.
What line is that, Audrey?
That is 3310-200.
That one is always confusing to people. I believe, it's not our, I believe that is, oh, Mitch just left the room, but I think that's some of our, solar speed signs and all, is that not? Or not?
I believe that is.
Show me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You want me to go grab?
Yeah, there's nothing-
I think Mitch would have put, we shouldn't be asking the police for these,
The
signers.
traffic control, I believe that came from you actually, because we called you, Frank
Yeah, but
asked about that.
that's the,
You
Because he
gave
asked
the
where-
paid parking machines, correct?
right, which is on another line. I was just,
Yeah.
I was just looking. That's.
We got these confused one time and they've been totally separated. For instance, when you look at traffic control electric, that's our stoplight electric costs.
Yeah, that was-
These
that's
are
all stuff.
more, this has nothing to do with like the paid parking machine.
76.
What did he say?
Oh, that's a different item. Mitch, the traffic control devices, which we have 20,000.
Equipment,
Sorry.
20,000.
Yeah, sorry.
The very first one, on page 9, 3310-200, traffic control equipment. It's at 20. Is that our radar little signs or what is that?
I don't know what that is.
Because you didn't put that in there?
Well, I answered the question about the traffic light,
Mhm.
which is definitely in this
Electric.
electric. I don't know what that is.
I'll look at my paperwork that I have and see where it came from.
If I suggested it and I'm forgetting, I apologize.
Yeah. So we'll look into what who might have suggested that one. Though, do we have the ability to get any more radar signs? Because there's the one on, as you come in from Polite Creek, seems to be a hit or miss.
Yeah, they're all kind of hit or miss. The company we've been buying from the past has gone unresponsive, so we have to find another company, I believe. But yeah, there's always ways to get more.
Okay,
But who did traffic control, I don't know, because I don't even know what lights are for 750.
Traffic control, like,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so we'll figure out. I know at one time the police thought they had to give those numbers, but we said, no, it doesn't really.
Now, Christy, Frank and I were definitely looking at this whole
Mhm.
category. I just don't know where the final numbers ended up coming from.
Oh, okay. All right, so we will try and figure that one out, that
Just-
20,000.
Just one other thing, during the course of our general conversation, police raised the idea that perhaps we should consider increasing the parking penalties, which had been.
They're already being sold. We should have done it before then.
You mean the tickets?
Yeah.
They were increased like a year and a half ago,
A year and a half ago.
relatively recently.
Frank seemed
The
to suggest.
fee, he's for paid parking. Is that what he's asking? Or
No, the
Violation.
the violations, yes, they were
violations.
increased,
About a year and a half ago.
I believe about a year and a half. Are they?
someone getting a ticket in the village pays
35.
39 or
Is a
40.
Is a $4
Yeah,
surcharge.
yeah.
Mhm.
We did look at them all relatively, I mean, in the big scheme of things, relatively recently.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then. we're
Depending on
okay
the
with
day,
that.
you're better off parking on the street.
And
Risk-
we increased some of them. We increased parking in an accessible space, blocking the
Fire
fire
hydrant.
hydrant. Like this,
Handicap, I think. went up
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So. Just going back to the idea of adding, I know that an additional officer. For most of the time I've been on the board, we've had 3 and a police chief. I will point out at the current budget, and that isn't including, monies we might add for a camera system, if that is kind of approved and accepted and included in the budget after our public hearing in April. Right now, every man, woman, and child is paying $327 for our police department of their taxes they pay. It's a big chunk for 1,752 people. And whenever I cite our population, they say, but we welcome hundreds of thousands. Well, particularly the weekends when we welcome several 100,000, we have BCI, FBI, Homeland Security. We have New York State Police. We have police officers from other departments. There is just a ton of support and oversight of our major induction weekend. I would prefer to see that our existing officers and part-time officers cover weekend shifts. Because in order, instead of having more coverage during the weekday, having them,
Yeah, absolutely. You have a couple of other items, just to further the discussion for 2 minutes. One, it's a dangerous job. We can lose it, we can lose an officer. Okay, and the second item that affects us in a big way is you have the situation where somebody becomes a Cooperstown police officer and then transitions to another agency with a salary is significantly higher, so we're always we'll be in a position where we face the possibility of being down 1 or 2 officers depending on those types of circumstances. So that's one of the factors that, I just want to put up onto the table.
So, it sounds like there are 2 suggestions. One is salary increases and increasing in personnel.
Well, one. I don't think anybody's clamoring for a salary increase, so the reality is other agencies like their agencies have paid significantly more than the village does here.
and adjacent agencies like the county that pays less. We've had officers leave here just for the chance of an advancement, but take a pay cut. And I would submit if we're losing them, look at the duration of the tenure of our 3 full-time officers. If we think it's an issue of retention, I think we then look at how long full-time officers that we currently have been in their positions.
I mean, it's a great job to probably to in ways pre-retirement, but for a young person, the question is a young person making this future in public safety and law enforcement. Will we be enough to keep them home here? And I don't have a good answer for that, but that's Dynamic.
I agree that there is an issue with lack of coverage on the weekends. It has become common not to have anyone during the day on the weekends. At the same time, on a Tuesday, we might have 3 people here, and that it seems to be a scheduling issue as well as a human resource issue. If that makes sense.
Do we have the latitude, union contract issues is, well, it taken into account to do a schedule that's more to provide for more even distribution?
I assume we do. We do that. But we would have to say with the
The-
chief.
The police chief is given a lot of authority in the contract for the scheduling, but with direction from the board that reinforcing that weekend coverage is important to us. I think that could be addressed. So moving on from page 9 to page 10. It looks like a lot of thick budget, but the good news is we're really only going to focus on A tonight, so hopefully we can get through it by 6:30. Page 10.
There were a number of things related to the fire hall building. And I don't know, Mitch, where they fall in the budget or whether we decided we were paying for them out of this year's budget.
Such as,
The lights,
the lights are being done out of this budget.
it seems like there was one other thing that we were talking about
The
doing.
floor,
The floor
The
tiles?
floor tiles,
that's gonna be started next week.
okay, so they don't have to appear in this budget because they're in the current
No.
budget.
They're in the.
Thank you,
Yep. And that's just removal. The fire department said they would handle installing new tiles.
yep.
I seem to recall a conversation about the phones. The phone is telephone for the fire department. is so much
How
higher.
expensive the bill became the last,
Yeah, there was something.
Right, we did discuss that.
I did notice that in your fire report, they were noticing how high it was and they were looking at.
Yeah, Mitch, I thought they got that. I thought,
This should be all taken care of. We're trying to phase out that ring square. And that was one that got moved, but was still being built, so that should be all taken care of.
So do we need $4,700? For the phone? Am I reading that right?
Yeah,
Well, it's almost 3,000 now, isn't it?
These don't include, are these firefighter cell phones or communication devices? No,
No, this is just phone at the,
but like at the site.
Hmm.
Let this seem like. Do they have special technology for emergency communications and so forth?
I don't know about how any of that works.
The prices on a lot of our phones and electricity and stuff like that, there's a lot of increase in surcharges are being added. So the bills are going up. I do know that because I was talking with Kathy the other day about it. So I'm assuming from what they have is they're accounting for those increases of those fees. And it is, as you can see, what we budgeted is already pretty much $1,000 almost increase since last year.
I will point out that our fire department budget, total budget of $102,951. It's an absolute bargain and we are so incredibly well served
Yeah, it
and
is.
well equipped that's never one that I tend to quibble at or the EMS.
No, I agree. I just was surprised about the phone was so high, but
Yeah.
you're right, and the number is actually lower than what was adopted. So it was pretty good.
All right, moving on. So are we through discussing page 10? So we'll move to page 11.
I have a number of streets questions, so people might have something before that.
Oh, begin.
Okay, so the New York Forward projects are all listed on the revenue side.
but not on here.
I don't see them on the expense side, and I think that's why the budget is in the situation that it's in, because we have counted revenue, and unless it's hiding somewhere that I have not seen it, we've missed the
It would have been here.
expenses.
It should be here in 5112-440.
So we need Pioneer Alley, Hoffman Lane.
Those
Fowler
funds.
Lane, Grove Street sidewalk, and the signage
Mhm.
are all.
Yeah.
Not in here.
Yeah.
The other thing that we need to decide whether we're putting in or not. New York State was talking to us about their project to add sidewalks going from Walnut Street south. We haven't heard anything about that project in recent months. But we do have a share in that project in terms of lamp posts at $176,000. They are not in
For
here,
how many was it? It's like 4 or 5?
however, I think it
I
was more
thought it
than
was
that.
more than that.
Yeah, I thought it was like 10.
I thought Town of Otsego had 10.
Yeah, in any
It was
case,
fewer.
there is a dollar figure associated with that. It is not in here because Mitch has reached out to them and asked if this is happening, and we've gotten zero response, and we know the whole. You know, our nation is changing in terms of the way things get funded. And I don't know whether they had Build America Better funding or what they had for that project. It's missing right now.
Yeah,
And we might wanna, we can try again.
I can try and reach out again.
But it's not in here.
I don't know if I would, I don't know. Worry about it too much at this
But
point.
the New York Forward stuff, we do need to get in here.
Absolutely, and
So-
it wasn't in our prior.
And how much would that add to this?
If you go back to our revenue line. It would be essentially the ones that are mentioned there, plus the signage, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the signage amount. So it's going to be 530, 743, 310. And 625 plus the signage, so it's adding a considerable amount.
Yeah.
If you want to think about it, it's a wash
Yes,
in
it
that
should be a
sense, it
wash.
should be a wash, but I think we're riding on the laurels of that money
Yeah.
as revenue without,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we
showing it
should
out.
be able to play around a little bit, and I use that term loosely with the various other categories, paved New York, the EWR, the state touring routes, the POP, like. There is some flexibility, but not. Right, we gotta account for those projects.
So, and as we sit here now, that would entail use of surplus.
I think we need to crunch the numbers, because
Yeah.
we do have in here. You know, like the state touring routes, that's $500,000 that we need to spend for something. And we can spend it on something like Pioneer Alley, but we need to finesse the numbers and see how close we are.
you haven't, you looked at those funds for other things for next
I
year.
was anticipating all those funds for either Delaware Street or.
Yeah, the south end, so it's not like we can be using them.
Because I know I can get reimbursed for those. I don't know if we'll be able to get reimbursed for
Right,
either for money.
right, we don't.
Yes,
But we do have the south end reconstruction in here as a separate line too.
mhm.
So we need to, we'll spend some time.
This is the first pass, and I think we're doing remarkably well, so. Is there any more, we were on page 11, were there any other comments there?
Well, if I just in terms of our first pass. In times past, when we stared at that surplus number,
Huge,
that's the brooding omnipresence that made us really.
yeah,
And we haven't really. Paired a lot. Tonight. Right? Just that we haven't seen the need to do that.
we've sort of added some things, I think it'll just help us, again, there was an interim budget, between the early one, which showed us only using like 200 some thousand. Then there was one that was 1.3. So that's been before we kind of straightened out the budget a bit more. So I think what we're doing is really
I
good.
mean, in the run up to this paper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
had a
think,
different Budget yesterday.
so let's work through what we're doing. And then have all the numbers crunched, and then we'll have a clearer sense. So if we're done with page 11, you were good, Cindy. Moving on to page 12. You know, the only thing I was just wondering, the south end, you've got 1 point. Basically, 1,510,000. And it was over 2 million to do Delaware and,
Well, there's money in, water and sewer as well.
oh, that will be coming, so that was the Soul Street part.
Yeah.
And that was sufficient because the bigger one was Delaware, if we went to the other street.
Yeah, if we
And-
did Delaware and South, that'd be even better.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
So can I ask a question? At the top of page 12, we have the carryover of the street permanent improvements, and we're looking at,
Page, what, 12?
yeah, we're looking at the $2.6 million as compared with the 798 of adopted last year. So that's considerable increase, and I'm just trying to make sure I.
The 439, correct me if I misspeak at all, Mitch, 439, 695 was allowed to
That's
be
a rollover.
rolled over from last year. So theoretically, in a year, we would get STR of about, you know, the 593, whatever number there. But we didn't utilize all of our STR funds last year, and we are allowed to roll them over. And so,
We've been saving up for a big project is the,
like the south end or whatever.
Okay, so that 2.6 million is not anomalous or problematic for us.
I don't believe so, but we're gonna work it out. We'll look at the numbers again because
Yeah,
there's some things that aren't in there.
Yeah. just so you know, the only reason we're looking at this closely is, as you know, we have I&I issues.
Mhm.
And the reason we were looking at South End is we know that we have more I&I issues down there. So Mitch and water and sewer were proactive. They got cameras in, and you may have seen them on those streets earlier this week, and they have done shots, you know, put cameras through both streets to try and determine, okay, which is the worst for I&I, because that's the one we'll tackle first. And once we have that answer, we'll have the exact numbers, because
Right,
there's
so
slight
Delaware's
difference.
gonna evaluate those images and tell us.
I'm sorry,
Delaware Engineering now has that information.
this isn't Delaware Engineering doing this.
I thought.
They are doing
Delaware's
camera,
doing the I&I.
Right.
They're
These two streets are not involved.
we
with
had them separately shot in order to make it this decision for the budget.
Okay.
So we're looking at page 12. Comments? No?
So the snow removal budget is something that 51,42,806. Or the total snow removal budget is considerably higher.
Last year, we didn't budget for any salt. We stored it off from the previous year, which turned out to be a mistake. Because we've been chasing chunks of salt all winter long, jamming breakdowns. So we're gonna try to use every little bit that we have this year and not store it.
And not so.
And not store it, because the humidity in the water, the salt absorbs it and it turns to like rock candy.
So.
So our entire salt shed last year, when we went to the beginning of the winter, had like a 6-inch cross top.
We thought we were being smart because we had
Yeah.
leftover money last year, but it
it is.
for us.
So you don't store it over the summer season?
Yeah, no, that was a bad idea.
Okay, it's not that the salt shed itself was not.
No.
Yeah, it's
Thanks.
ambient humidity.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on page 12? Moving on to 13.
So I'm looking down at the 3 mile point, the dock poles, these are supplementary to our new dock,
Yeah,
stabilizing?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. How did that installation go? Or the removal go?
fairly easy,
Was it
less than a day,
worth the effort? I mean, worth the.
I think so.
Moving on to page 14. Fifteen.
Audrey, I know you presented a figure
Yeah.
about the concerts. Is the right figure in here?
That was, I'm looking at. I know that the desire. was
It's
definitely-
8,000
Yeah.
is in there.
Yeah, no, 8,000 is. Quite a bit from what Randy proposed, it's most of what he's. Somebody will be happy if this gets approved.
So what's your recommendation? Or
Well, I
is there
think-
any way to parse that you feel the need to anyway?
I mean, I think definitely we need to increase the band fees. So, you know, that he estimated that at $750 extra. The big thing he was requesting was a pretty high amount for doing some sort of kids booth, the face painter. At $12.50 for the 10 concerts of $125 a concert. I think we talked about maybe testing it out for 3 concerts, you know, pick some just to see how it goes. I mean, I think. You know, 1,000 would definitely be good, maybe 1,500, if we need to trim something, I think. A little bit could be trimmed off of that, he's asked for 2,500.
Well, in terms of a concession, a concessionary setting up at the park. We don't pay the food trucks to come, right?
Right, yes, and that was the question, I mean, I think he wanted to make whatever it is free, not to charge people.
Yeah, people
So
don't
you
charge for face paint.
Yeah. You would
Right,
make
well-
that reasonable, so you'd have to pay the person.
Well, as I said, from my empirical observation of children having the best time of their lives,
Right.
right now, I don't know that we need to build some money with. an
That's a good
expenditure
point.
of this sort.
The kids have. It's Disney, for many of those kids, they're dancing and they're running up and down.
Yeah, we're having a great time.
I don't really see a need for additional entertainment directed.
Well, the other thing that he had requested was an additional $500 to add a second band. For the 4th of July, a second band for the 4th of
We
July.
don't do that.
I mean, I think the most important thing is the increase for the band
Yeah.
fees.
I
And
agree.
I would suggest maybe we want to round it up to 1,000. Well, but, I mean, I think it's nice that we've got 2,000 in there. I don't know, you know, like I said, I could see saying, try it out for a few times and see. A few concerts, the opening concert, maybe 4th of July and the kickoff of another one.
So right now we do 8 concerts, 10,
10.
10, so it's 800 now, so we're moving it up to 800. Right,
What was his budget before? It'd be, and
It's usually 6,000, it's usually 6,000, it went over this year to 63,38,
so we've gone up $2,000,
Yes.
so why don't we-
How much was the cost, the actual cost?
before,
Over
Oh,
$338.
63.38. So, yeah, so,
$2,000.
so yes, I would say.
but we budgeted 6,000, so they went
they went a
330.
little over.
Right, because the mailings cost more.
So much,
So
yes.
you have to factor that into this year, it's postage has gone up even more.
That's true, the postage has.
I
been-
would say 7,500.
Yeah.
I think would be a good increase.
Yeah. I'd say 7,500. If we needed to shave something off, that would definitely give him money to increase the fees, the amount paid
Yeah.
to the bands.
I have to say, quite frankly, that is an area that it brings incredible enjoyment and it is a wonderful thing down there.
And
that-
it's not really that much money. I
No,
mean,
so
we shaved it
I'm
off
fine with
$100.
8,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm fine with the
Yeah.
8,000.
I mean, it's not really doing anything to shave off 500.
No, okay, so any other questions on page 15? 16,
I had a question about the shade trees.
yeah,
So this is line 8560-460. So we do have this forestry grant. But the grant income should be on the revenue side. And then the question is, are we planting anything besides what is covered under the grant, right?
it's interesting because I remember, it's not like we're at all in jeopardy of losing our Tree City status because Tree City status is like $1 per resident, so that our budget for trees could be 1,752 and we'd still be a tree city.
Hmm.
You look where the bulk of our tree work is, and it's on the trimming.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty content with what we have here.
Oh, no, I'm saying it's accounted for wrong.
Oh, yeah, definitely that, and you got that, right, Christie?
I didn't hear, so I apologize.
Oh, okay, we have a grant, so that needs to be shown on the revenue right there.
The grant's in this budget. The current budget.
It's just
So-
referring to the grant, it's not listing it here.
Well, no, it says.
Oh, it does list it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
lists
my question.
I'm
Oh, is
sorry.
it, we're
Oh,
using it this year?
I
And,
to try to use it this way, right?
Yeah, I didn't see that was listed there.
oh, okay,
Is it accounted?
Yeah, I didn't either,
Accounted
Mitch.
for
Because it was-
revenue?
Hidden.
Huh?
Was well more than that, it was like 17.
Yeah. So my suggestion is to cross off where it says urban and community forestry grant, 12,000. And at this point in time, just leave the 12,000 in there. We may not need it, we can, if we need to cut, that is something that can be cut. If we don't need to cut, then it's.
okay, because it
always
was
nice to-
never shown on the revenue anyway,
Yeah, it's always nice to plan for.
okay.
So I'll just remove the comment part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just leave the comment. I think that resolves the situation.
Yeah. There wasn't another grant we applied for, or no, this year?
Not for trees, because we've been waiting on the DEC for.
Oh, okay. Right,
And I wonder what dredging for
Yeah.
dogs is.
See, I didn't know either.
Okay.
it must have been held over from another one. Oh, held over, okay. Yeah, I'll look and see if it was on here.
And then I'll look.
Wasn't held over. Don't know.
I'll figure it out. It said 0 for amount, so.
Yeah, it's just the wording. Right?
Can I just ask a question on page 16? Dredging for docks.
That's what we just said. We're removing the line. We're not sure where it came from.
Didn't hear it.
Sorry, that's right. That's right.
And what are all the highlights?
Yellow.
Yeah.
Were we filling in? Yeah, this should have had something in there.
I didn't have any of this information.
I will say, on the removed line about dredging for docks, there are in the close in, now 2 or 3 or 4 close in spots are down to less than a foot of water.
We could certainly begin the discussion, but I can guarantee you it probably wouldn't be in this budget year.
Oh, I understood.
Yeah, so we could certainly begin that. I mean, just putting rock riprap at lakefront or Council Rock, you know, just particularly where the stairs are a little eroded there. It's incredibly difficult to get into any. Do they use the word dredging? I thought they used another
No,
word.
there's another word that
Yeah.
you use when it's fresh water, not salt.
Yeah, when it's freshwater, we use the word dredging, so we'll look at the terminology and we think about it, but yeah,
I'll watch something today.
okay. But down here under watershed, yes, we do need
Are we on 17?
16. I'm still on 16,
okay.
I'm sorry. Those yellows, I think, were in there when we did, you know.
I didn't have information.
You didn't have in there, so we'll look at that, previously, because that does need to be in there. Right, so I will make a note, page 16, to look that over with you. Okay, page 17. That one is pretty much just showing, you know, transfers, our bonds, our leases. We have leases and installment payments on the sweeper, police vehicles, etc. And we have bond for Doubleday. And earlier. Isn't there another one here? There's another one. Payments. All right, so that, if we have finished with page 17, we've gotten through our AFA. At 6:30, and we will make those changes. Our next budget meeting. Yes, I think it's the day.
It's Thursday the 27th.
Yep, Thursday, the 27th, from 5 to 6:30 will be our second budget workshop. I think we're doing phenomenally well, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.